The price of the presidential nomination form for the All Progressives Congress, APC, might have raised eyebrows from Nigerian citizens, but that hasn't stopped interested aspirants from acquiring the most sought-after form in the country. As a precondition for submitting the expression of interest and nomination forms, presidential aspirants on the platform of the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC, are to submit with the forms the signatures of 10 statutory delegates from each state and the Federal Capital Territory. About 30 aspirants have so far declared interest in the coveted office on the APC platform, while about 17 have obtained forms already. The party had come under criticism for the Form 18 letter of withdrawal attached to the forms. The aspirants were expected to sign the letter and submit it with their forms and other documents. Some of the aspirants were said to be uncomfortable with the letter as they perceive it as a move to impose a consensus candidate on them. Joining us on this show this morning, as we take a look at the conditions stated on the nomination forms, is Robert Clarke, a senior advocate of Nigeria. Good morning, Chief Clarke, and thank you for joining us on the morning show.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Well, let's start with your take on current developments in the political landscape. This promises to be the most contested presidential primaries ever in the history of Nigeria's democracy. Well, let's say Fourth Republic. Almost 40 aspirants on the platform of the APC, 15 on the platform of the PDP, not to talk of the other 16 political parties that will also conduct their primaries. And people are churning out as much as 100 million naira to take the forms. What do you think of this? And then in the APC, what do you think of that Form 18 that requires you to withdraw, although we're told that it is optional? What's your take, sir?
Thank you very much. When one looks at the number of people rushing around to become presidents, senators, whatever you call it, it goes to show you today that politics is the #1 profession in Nigeria. It is not an ideal profession for a young man to be dreaming to become a lawyer, to be dreaming to become a doctor. The first contradiction you hear from any young man is that I want to be a politician, as if politics is a profession. And why do I say there is this eagerness to become politicians? It's because for the past 22 years, since the dispensation of this so-called democracy, which is a democracy, I don't know how to language to use, but I'll just keep quiet there, is the worst form of government that this country has ever passed through for the past 60 years. Now the question is, why is everybody clamoring to be a politician? The only reason is that the system, and I continue to say it, the system allows politicians to steal the public money. Nigeria's constitution is a constitution that allows a governor to contest an election, becomes a governor for 8 years, and immediately is leaving. He has been taken to EFCC and from there to prison. It is very disgracing and disgraceful. However, the fact that Nigeria is one of the most corrupt countries is quite clear from how our politicians are dealing. Now, the question about the amount of money that political parties are asking candidates to deposit also goes to show you that, like the pastors in the church says, sow a seed, and the amount of seed you sow is what you will reap in heaven. It's the same thing. Politicians are being told you have to sow so that you will reap when you get the benefit when you become a governor or a senator. So I'm not surprised. But there is nothing wrong in what they are doing. There is nothing unconstitutional. There is nothing criminal. The law allows them to do exactly that. But if the law allows you, what about the morality of the whole exercise? What about the situation in which the country now finds itself? There are many young lawyers who can't feed themselves today. There are many young doctors who cannot feed themselves today. Whereas the best you can get in Nigeria today are the politicians who swagger all the money around. Therefore, if they're asking them to bring 100 million, they will bring it because they know within 6 months they have already gotten what they're asking for. So the political parties have a right to ask for money. But it is unfortunate that looking at every aspect of Nigerian life today, I mean every aspect of Nigeria, there is no area of our life that any politician can smile about and can boast about for the past 22 years. They have been a disgrace to this country. Events have shown it. I am not making this statement without any proof. Nigeria today is worse than where Nigeria was in 1982. In 1982, Nigeria was far, far, far better than what we are today. This is a thought for the politicians, that the Nigerian people, I'm not saying hate politicians. They allow them just because it is necessary to avoid any other form of constitutional dominance. Therefore, my take on this problem is that the political parties have a right. Let them charge as much as they want. Let them, extort, because this is pure extortion as far as I see it. Now, the second question is, why are you asking your candidates to sign a pre-resignation letter? Let me be clear on this. For many people who don't know this, who are very young to have known this, it's a new system. It's not a new system in Nigerian democracy. I remembered in the 50s, even before independence, the NCNC and the Action Group were urging their candidates to sign resignation papers because of what we call cross-carpeting. A candidate contests an election, he wins. After 6 months in the House, he crosses the carpet. So the politicians now devised this method and say, look, if you know you are going to cross, there's nothing we can do about it. The only thing we can do, sign this undertaking. It is called an undated letter of resignation. Once the man crosses the carpet, the party now submits, puts it on the letter and submits it to the clerk of the House. So what is happening now is not new. But that goes to show that even amongst themselves, they don't trust each other. We all know that there is honor among thieves. But in the case of politicians, they don't trust themselves. That's why they are putting such a letter up, so that if you change your mind, we will deal with you. So my point is that their action today is a negative action on the basis of morality. There is nothing to learn from them. And Nigeria, I am sorry to say, is gaining nothing from all these people. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I refer you to the Electoral Act of 2020, and I'd like to ask 2 questions based on that act. Section 84, subsection 9, says, as you've just said, the party, when you're talking about a consensus situation, the party shall secure written consent. You need to voluntarily withdraw from the race. You need to endorse the consensus candidate. And now APC has tried to achieve this via the back door. That's the first point. The second point is section 90, subsection 3, which states here that a political party shall not accept any monetary or other contribution which is more than 50 million naira unless it can identify the source of the money or other contribution to the commission. So is APC as a party trying to fundraise by the back door, flouting either the letter or the spirit of this section 90 subsection 3 by having these exorbitantly expensive presidential forms so that each of the bidders can pay 100 million naira and sidestep this clause in the Electoral Act? So my question for you, sir, is that the Electoral Act of 2022, for which President Muhammadu Buhari was widely praised, even by some of his harshest critics, is it actually worth the paper it's printed on? If already we're seeing the way our ruling party, no less, is abusing its provisions, either abusing or completely ignoring, what will then happen by next year on election day?
Well, let me be clear on this. The law is the law. The political party is an organization that controls its own activities. So, if the law says do this, do this, do this, and a political party, through its internal mechanism, decides to give other instructions, so far they do not contradict what the law says, they can still make their own laws and orders. And if I remember my principle of law, I remember this. We call it the rule in force and habitude. It's an English common law decision in the 18th century, and it still holds until today. Now, the doctrine there is that if you are an organization, the court cannot dictate to you how you exercise your rights in the organization. Because if the court does it and it goes back to the board of directors, they will overrule the court. And there's a doctrine in law that the courts do not make orders in vain. So, even if there is a law that restricts the amount of money a political party can spend, if within the internal meetings and workings of the party, they decide to do other things to get money, the question is that act justiciable? Justiciability in law is so important. Without it, you cannot go to court. So the first question to ask is the act of the political parties justiciable in law? My answer is that it is not, because it is an internal organism of the party to do all these things, all within its either what do you call the memorandum of understanding or whatever. Therefore, with the greatest respect, the Electoral Act is the law, but politicians have a way of circumventing the law and will escape the justiciability of it.
So, at what point?
That's my say.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. At what point does something really have to give? You know, at what point do we rein in these politicians and all their shenanigans? I mean, we can't keep looking at democracy this way. Don't you feel like that sometimes? That we can't keep looking at the democracy.
This is the problem.
We fought for, everybody fought for this way.
It is an irony, complete irony. And I've been shouting and shouting for the past 10 years that we have a rotten constitution, the 1999 constitution, that allows all what you are saying about. Even with due respect, the military reign was better than what we have seen from 1999. For instance, the Constitution has devolved so much power to the governors and to the president that after elections, they are able, through many maneuvers, to kowtow all their members of House of Assembly or as President, the National Assembly. And all this problem we are seeing today is because the Constitution we have does not serve the people. The Constitution only serves the politician. The politicians have cornered Nigeria through that 1999 Constitution. They have been able to amass wealth for themselves. And as of today, they have allowed Nigeria to decline in every aspect of human endeavors, either education, whatever area of Nigerian human life. The 1999 Constitution has made it worse for Nigerians. So my answer to this question is that, as I've always said, let us jettison this 1999 Constitution. Let us find a way to reorganize Nigeria. I have said it before. When President Jonathan set up that conference that my good brother Afenifere man always shouts upon, I said it then, at the beginning of that conference, that it holds no water because there was no legal basis. I have also advised Buhari on one of my talks that history will hold him responsible if he does not change this constitution. And I was asked, how could he change it? And I said, it is simple. You pass a bill to this present National Assembly. Tell them you want to have a change in the constitution of the country. After that, tell them that whatever they decide, you will call a conference, get resolutions, and then pass the resolution for a national, or what do you call it, for Nigerian people to now look into it and make their voice known. Whatever decision that comes out, then the National Assembly will be bound to take it. Outside that, and with respect to Afe Babalola, outside that, it is only God or a third force that can only help Nigeria to jettison the 1999 Constitution. It is an albatross on this thing. People are making a lot of money. I have seen not only 20, 30 young boys who 20 years ago were nothing. But after spending 2 or 3 terms, you see them riding almost, or you have a peep into their compound, almost 6 cars. These are people within 8 years, just for serving Nigeria, have become Nova rich people. So my advice is that God should help us, open the hearts of our president, let him undertake before the next election to change this constitution.
Well, sir, the one newspaper is reporting prominently on its front page today that the CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, is seeking legal advice as to whether or not people buying farms. A group of rice farmers bought farms for 100 million on his behalf last week. And then he came forward and said, well, he's still listening to God, that this requires divine intervention, but that he will use his own money should God speak to him. But the PDP, Governor Akeredolu of Ondo State, and other observers of the political scene have gone ahead to say that, in fact, the CBN governor of Nigeria should not even get involved in partisan politics. But we've been told by the chairman of Ward 6 in a Kai North local government area that, in fact, he's a card-carrying member of the ruling All Progressives Congress. That is also in the papers today. Has he gone on the wrong side of the law or not? Because, Punch newspaper is Punch. He's seeking legal advice. as to the constitutionality of all of this?
Number one, the appointment as a chairman or whatever president of the central bank makes him a very unique person in Nigeria. And he holds a public office that is guaranteed and covered by law. I believe that typical of every Nigerian, they want to talk to God. That is the first consolation they give themselves. Which God they want to talk to, I don't know. But I am telling you, and I sincerely believe that it is not the God I serve that they want to talk to. Because if they talk to their own human beings, they would have been told, look, you holding this position, what are you doing with these politicians? How can you be in politics when you are, the president of the central bank? Therefore, he must be joking. And when I say joking, I mean it sincerely, because he has avenue to many legal knowledgeable friends who can advise him. And I believe that if he's well advised, he should be the last person to make such a statement public.
Right, thank you, sir. You observed earlier that the actions or the processes or what have you of a political party are not justiciable, but that they only apply to the members of their party. What do you then make of the APC guideline requiring all ambitious political appointees who are seeking either presidential office or governorship or what have you to have resigned a month to the primaries, and the primaries are May 30th to 31st. You have ministers in the Federal Republic, President Buhari's cabinet, who have blithely ignored their own party's guidelines. What do you make of that, sir?
Well, my opinion is that this is just one of the areas that the politicians have turned every good thing in Nigeria upside down. The basis of that law is clear. And the law is that a candidate must give up his position if he wants to attend because if he comes, loyalty to whom is he going to give? Because at that material time, if he's a minister, if he's an advisor, his loyalty is to Mr. President. And that does not signify the essence of holding a primary election. Therefore, I, Robert Clarke, look at it negatively, but I don't want to give a final decision or whether it is wrong or right. But as far as I'm concerned, this shows you how far Nigeria has degenerated in every area of life. Every area of life we have degenerated.
So still to follow up on that, Senior Advocate Femi Falana said, they should just get sort of like a leave of absence, that they shouldn't resign. What's your take on that, one? And two, what's your take on the Attorney General of the Federation violating that same provision and seeking governorship in KB State as we speak now?
You see, I'm not a politician, and I always hate to dabble into politics. The Attorney General vying to be a governor while still a sitting Attorney General, all these are political matters. I have been relating to lawyers, I have been relating to politicians for the past, let me put it, my first election petition for Shagari in Maiduguri in 1978. But I have never been in any political party. I keep them as friends, and I do my job for them. All these matters are political matters. And if you can excuse me, please do not allow me to talk on it, because every time I talk about politicians and their acts, my heart aches aches very much. And I'm always near tears.
Well, how about zoning and rotational presidency? I guess that's not strictly about politics. That when people talk about it, they say that's about equity, fairness, and justice. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that it is the right thing to jettison idea of rotation and allow a northerner to take over after 8 years of the Buhari presidency? I guess that's not political. That's about justice, isn't it?
Yeah. This is not political. I agree with you. However, let's look at it. Let us look at the arithmetic of Nigeria from 1999 under this constitution that is talking about zoning. Zoning is made possible by political parties, not by the Constitution. Rather, the Constitution says that you must ensure that every part of Nigeria is represented. But the Constitution did not say how and in what manner you can carry out this principle of equity, fair play, or whatever way you want to call it. But speaking as Robert Clarke and looking at the arithmetic in front of me, and God is my witness, I am going to answer this question as a lawyer who has, the backing of the law, as a human being who is being directed by morality, that when you prescribe a rule and says there should be, you will see that APC does not have that in their constitution. The PDP has it in their constitution. So this question you are asking me now, to which party are you ascribing this? Because APC does not have it, PDP has it. Now, is it APC that has to zone now, or is it PDP that has to zone according to? So my view is that between the two parties, the axe is falling on the PDP because they have it in their constitution that we will rotate. APC does not have it. So you cannot hold APC to any rotational gimmick. But my advice is that if PDP goes by its own constitution, definitely it has to rotate to the south. That is my submission.
Sir, in all of this grimness and bleakness, is there anything that gives you hope for the future of Nigeria? A silver lining, if you will. I like those. Is there just anything that you can point to in which we're actually on the right track?
I am 84 years old, and I can assure you I've had the best time in my life, both in my legal practice, in my social life, in every aspect of life. But I can assure you that those days are gone past. Since 1999, I've not been a happy man, the way and manner Nigeria was being moved. For instance, look at our first president, Obasanjo, with due respect to him. What was the first negative act he did? I want a third term. Can you imagine? But he says, oh, it's not me who wants it. It's my friend who are asking me to go for a third term. That is how we started the 1999 Constitution, by looking for loopholes to breach the Constitution. I don't see any green light for Nigeria. And if we are not careful, the only consolation is this. The Constitution provides that the president can stay longer than 8 years. I've always said it. It's in the Constitution. If the situation in which we are in now continues And it is impossible to hold the 2023 election. The Constitution says if a situation persists, the president will tell INEC, in view of all these insurgencies, in view of kidnappings, in view of Boko Haram, I don't think in these different areas of Nigeria we can have a good election. The Constitution says, I am going to stay for 6 months in the first instance. So the fact that the Constitution says the president cannot stay for more than 8 years is wrong. Because the same Constitution says he can be, giving himself six months if those conditions persist. Now, I don't see any green light. I don't see how what is happening today can be stopped within the period of 6 months from today or before February next year when elections will be held. The alternative then is for Mr. President to continue as president, allow the security forces to carry up the mopping up, and Nigeria becomes stable. Because I swear to God Almighty, without stability in Nigeria, without security, Nigeria is going nowhere. Nowhere. No foreigner will bring his money and put in any business in Nigeria when he knows that any of his expatriates who are sent to Nigeria can be kidnapped at any time. So until all these things are sorted out, I don't see any green light.
So I'd like to ask you this. You talked about getting a new constitution. The National Assembly has been doing a constitutional, reform exercise, or some parts have been put into the constitution. What would you like to say about that? You also talked about conferences, sir. But we had way too many constitutional conferences. A lot of people are saying, why can't President Muhammadu Buhari just adopt the report of the last confab and implement it? Nigerians, we all agreed on that report. Representative of the people sat for that report.
Now, the report made by Jonathan had no basis in law. The Yoruba says, Odongoduru. You cannot make something from nothing. I advised when the conference started that there should be a legal, because the president cannot change the constitution. The changing of a constitution is that of the National Assembly, and they will never change it because it pays them. As I told you, I was being told, even I heard it from Professor Sagi, that National Assembly members are earning almost fantastic money, 60 million a month or something. I have been told by a former president of this country that it costs Nigeria 269 million naira to maintain one senator. He told me this 6 years ago. So 100 senators, 290 million a year to maintain one of them, about 103. You now look at all the houses. What is costing Nigeria today to maintain a government is heartbreaking. For instance, there was no money to pay civil servants. There was no money to pay public officers. The right thing to have done then, which we know, is to call for an austerity measure where salaries and emoluments of all these national members of National Assembly are pruned down. But instead, we went to get a loan. 80% of the loan we got is to maintain the status quo of these people. Nigeria spends over 80% of its earnings to maintain governance. Where do you get that in the whole world? And until you do that, nothing will come out of it. On the Constitution, Buhari can do nothing on his own on the Constitution made by Jonathan. The best he can do, as I earlier said, is to send a bill to the National Assembly and say, look, I am sending you a constitution. I want you to look into it. I want you to give me your promise that when it is returned to me and I send it for a plebiscite or whatever, you will approve it. Because without that connection, the National Assembly, there is nothing Buhari can do. But yet he can do something. And as you rightly said, rather than calling for a new conference, if all Nigerians believe in the old one, let him send it to them, let them approve it, let him then send it for a referendum. Whatever the referendum says, National Assembly will be bound by it. That is the way we can change the Constitution through Buhari now. Outside that, I'm not a sage, I'm not a soothsayer. God does not talk to me, like people are saying before I contest. But what I'm telling you, if nothing happens before the election, God forbid, this country may be in flames.
Well, we hope not. And on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Chief Robert Clarke, for joining us this morning on The Morning Show.